So when it comes to technology, I'm not really usually absolutely on the leading edge, and really was very much with people like Larry Cuban on this from Stanford University, which is that digital technologies were destined probably for the same fate as video, television, teaching machines, language laboratories, and that there will be a flurry for a while, and then mainly we would revert back to teaching as we understand it, not just because of reasons of control, but because of relationships, face-to-face contact, and so on. Until I came with my colleague Henry Brown and our teams to Ontario to look at 10 school districts, the seventh of all the school districts almost in Ontario, and their implementation of the special education reform strategy based on a document that many of you will know called Learning for All. And when we looked at this and went across school districts, a real eye-opener for me was the power, well used, of assistive technologies like sound to text, text to sound, for students with learning and other kinds of disabilities. That when these were made available and the students and their teachers were properly prepared, and there was a good context for them to use the devices that could help them, this made a significant contribution to how students with learning disabilities could access their learning and could represent their learning, including on the standardized EQAO tests as well. This was a moment for me of the scales falling from my eyes. So I began to see technology not just as a fad or as a frill, but in some way as a question for some students of equity and social justice. And then we found, crucially, that when these students had learned and become familiar and confident with the technologies that could help them, and went back to classes where their teachers were with all students, comfortable and at ease, and expert in the use of technology, not obsessively all the time. Even there are some Microsoft partner schools, the leading edge of Microsoft partner schools, that say around 30% of the time is a good sort of ratio to be working with technology. But teachers who were skilled and competent, that when the students with learning disabilities went back to those classes, they were just one more child needing a device that could help, that could enhance their learning amongst many children. But if they went back to a class where there was an aversion to technology, or a rejection, or even an ignorance of technology, they were the only child needing a device, and they stood out and were stigmatized. So for me, ease and facility with technology, when it can enhance learning, is a question of equity, inclusion, and social justice, as well as all the 21st century skills that we've been talking about on this conference. The issue then is twofold. Just as there are good and bad, superficial and deep, face-to-face teaching strategies, there are good and bad, superficial and deep teaching and learning strategies using digital technologies. And that the large-scale system-wide evidence on this is not yet persuasive about the strategies that will give, in terms of what we call high yield, in other areas. We really don't know yet much what the high yield strategies are using technology. I'm not saying that they don't exist, but that the technology is ahead of people's capacity in terms of use of the technology, pedagogical strategy, and ability to deal with change. The technology is ahead of it.